Good morning. I'm here to talk about the muscle of the month, the hip flexor group. There are a lot of ways that you can incorporate this into your coaching in terms of explaining what it does and how we can release it and use it to our advantage. It's very, very active in a lot of our exercises, especially exercises that are considered to be more abdominal exercises. We actually use hip flexors quite a bit. So I'm going to explain the anatomy. This is a fantastic resource. If you want some extra reading, Anatomy Trains by Thomas Myers is a great way to understand how the muscles work in conjunction with each other. Nothing in our bodies is ever isolated, including our exercises. So we're going to talk about the hip flexors, but knowing that they always work with the muscles in the leg and the trunk kind of together, they're actually a really important link there. So this picture right here, we're looking at the side of the hip. So that muscle right in the front there, this guy right here is called the TFL, tensor fascia lata. It works with these other ones that are connected in blue. That's the glute max and the glute medius. Those are also really important. The muscles in the front of the hip act to pull the leg forward. That's what hip flexion is. They also control lowering of the leg moving backwards. So if you're standing and you lean back, those muscles are active to control that extension so that you're not falling over backwards. They're also active to pull the leg forward. So anything that we do that's lying on our back, raising our legs, flutter kicking, running man, all those bicycle crunches, all those kinds of exercises, the hip flexors are very, very active. So actually, most important that we stretch them out so they don't get overtired. That TFL is part of it. This guy in here is much deeper and more famous. This one is called the iliopsoas. Well, this is called the psoas. There's an iliacus muscle that lives right in here inside this hip bone, but this is the one that we're going to focus on right now. These two work together, the iliacus and the psoas, but this guy, you can see, this attaches to the front of the lumbar vertebrae. So when it's tight and it's active, it pulls the lumbar spine forward. It attaches also to the inside of the thigh bone. This is a super deep muscle. It lives like underneath all your guts. And it can help to stabilize the spine. The other thing that's not shown here is that what lives right here, there's kind of a domey shaped muscle here that's super important to breathing called the diaphragm, and the psoas actually attaches to that also. So doing breathing exercises and the kind of things that we work on during flow can be really helpful in terms of letting that go also, especially when the leg is straight. The best way to stretch these muscles, and I think we need to work more on specifically stretching them than we do on adding more strength to them because they're very active in a lot of what we do. Keeping the spine neutral can help the muscles work most effectively. So that's a really good cue to be giving, especially when the legs are involved in our exercise, which is almost always. But the best way to stretch it kind of looks like this. I'm just going to kind of move things around here. The best way to stretch it, if you're on your knees, if they can tolerate having their kneecap on the ground, best way to stretch this right hip right here is to be in this half kneeling posture with the pelvis kind of rotated under, so belly is on, this glute is really tight, and I push forward until I get a pull here on the front of this leg. Because this knee is bent back here, it makes the stretch a little bit better. Adding more like this would stretch the quad more down into the thigh, which is fine as long as we're not losing the stretch here. We can also do the same kind of thing in a standing kind of lunge sort of position if weight on that kneecap doesn't feel good. So hopefully that helps understand the muscle of the month, the hip flexor group, a little bit more. Let's remember that it's active to pull the leg up and to help pull the spine forward if the leg is being stable. It's not active in a squat. I mean, it's always active a little bit, but it's not really active just because the hip is flexing. So like in a squat or like in this position that I'm in right now, gravity has pulled me down. My hip flexors didn't pull me down. My glutes work to control me to get into the squat position, and they will work to push me out of it. Any questions, please let me know. Comments here are helpful for the whole group. So hope that helps, ladies. Let me know if there's anything else I can do to help. Happy core session.